Good morning, you guys. I love these books, as you know, and maybe you didn't know this about me, but I love Kermit the Frog. When I was a kid, I used to watch the Muppet Show every week, and I love Kermit the Frog still. I have a couple pictures of him up here in the library and quotes by him. My favorite quote by him is on my wall, and it says, "Always be happy." When people are in a bad mood, the last thing they want is to be around happy people. And I always think about Kermit the Frog. Anyway, so Jim Henson is the creator of the Muppets. And I'm excited to read this book to you guys today. Let's do it. It's a 3.4 AR level. No means it doesn't read to you, but it does have an AR quiz. Here we go. I like the book fine so far. It hasn't started yet. That's what I like about it. Those characters are the best. I Am Jim Henson by Brad Meltzer. I am Jim Henson. Oh, good, you're here. What's the fun of a story if you don't have anyone to share it with? Growing up in Mississippi, I used to love to watch birds. I even made my own book where I'd list each bird I saw and add my own drawings. That bird up there is my favorite, the blackbird. Blackbirds have fun personalities, and I also love their other names. The grackle. Don't you just love funny names like that? My whole life I've loved kooky words. No, want to know what else I loved? Laughing. As a kid, there was one of my favorite family jokes. My mom used to play it on my brothers and me. Say when. That's enough. Mom, that's enough. Mom, you didn't say when. At 8 years old, I'd come here to the movie theater every Saturday. This was my favorite place. For 15 cents, I could get a bag of popcorn and spend a whole day watching cartoon, newsreels, action movies, and comedies. My favorites were the ones with wild clothing and far-off locations like the Old West or foreign countries. The rest of the week, my friends and I would recreate what we saw in the movies using homemade props and costumes. Bedsheet turned into a turban. Look, the great snake charmer! A garden hose was the snake. Look, a star tattoo! Cork cut like a star, then charred black. The star tattoo that bad guy had in a movie. With a little imagination, we'd start pretending there was no limit to what we could create. My grandparents played a big role in my life. I got my middle name, Maury, from my grandfather, who loved to laugh too, but he never laughed at anyone, never made fun of people. As far as my grandmother, she was my best audience. When she came over to visit, we'd use paint, glue, and crayons to make the most amazing art projects. She was the one who encouraged me to draw things that made me happy. Monsters with giant mouths and birds with big eyes. Ta-da! I adore it, Jimmy. Now tell me a story about each creature. Those days with my grandmother changed my life. She encouraged me to tell stories. She supported my love of reading, and she was amazing with a needle and thread. She could sew anything. What is that? It's a coat made out of an army blanket. Like it? But the most important thing she taught me, I really do. The most important thing she taught me was that with my imagination, I could do anything. I could be anything, including a performer. One night during a skit and Cub Scouts, I had one of my friends stand in front of everyone with his hands behind his back. Then I put my own hands in and, what's so funny? I'm being serious. I can still hear the crowd laughing. I always loved good performance. Growing up, I listened to shows on the radio like Green Hornet, The Shadow, and one of my favorite comedies, ventriloquist named Edgar Bergen. Even though Edgar Bergen did the voices, I never thought Charlie McCarthy or his other characters were puppets. They were human to me. His work was magic. Magic in the real sense. It seemed impossible. That's what magic is. It creates wonder. It creates dreams that inspire. I'd seen their picture in newspapers, but here, with each show, an ordinary object came to life. Once upon a time, long ago, funny, nothing happens nowadays. Something happened when Edgar spoke through Charlie. The puppeteer wasn't just sharing jokes, he was sharing the best part of himself, and people were listening. When I was 13, a new technology changed my life. At a friend's house, I saw the invention called television. You have a television? We just got it. Isn't it cool? Can we get a TV? Can we get a TV? Can we get a TV? Can you please stop? Sure. Now can we get a TV? I wouldn't give up. Soon my parents gave in. On TV, I found comedians like Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, and Jack Benny. One of my favorites was Ernie Kovacs, whose titled set and camera so everything slid sideways, who tilted the set and camera so everything slid sideways. I especially love variety shows which had big casts that would sing, dance, and do comedy. And there was Kahlua, Fran, and Ollie, the show where puppets made jokes and sang with human co-stars. The way they talked to each other, it was like those puppets were alive. Right away, I knew one thing. I wanted to work in television. At 16 years old, I went looking for a job at all the local TV stations. Sorry, kid, sorry, kid, sorry, kid. There has to be another place that'll hire me. They all said no. But like the time I begged my dad for a TV, I never gave up. Soon after, a local station announced it was looking for a puppeteer. I'd never used a puppet before, but my whole life I've loved creating. This was the job I wanted. So how'd I get it? The same way you get any dream, hard work. I went to my high school library, took out books on puppetry, built a few puppets, and went back to the station. Now I'm a puppeteer. Will you hire me? They gave me a chance. That was all I needed. My first show, a success? Nope, it was canceled. But did I give up? Not a chance. My partner and I continued creating, continued working hard, and eventually we got our own 5-minute before the Tonight Show. Along the way, we came up with a name for our characters. We called them Muppets. Playing around with the word puppets, but really it was just a fun word, like grackle. By the way, this is Jane. She worked on the show with me. We're going to get married one day. Wait, we get married? Don't ruin the ending. Our show was called Sam and Friends. We needed a new puppet, and the answer was right in plain sight. I was 18 years old and found my mother's old wool coat. I cut it apart and sewed a new body. My grandmother taught me that one. I gave it a pointed face. I glued on the halves of a ping pong ball for the eyes, and then I gave the one who performed his voice. Yes, he was turquoise back then. He wasn't even a frog, but he did have a name, Kermit. With each show, I kept inventing new characters, dreaming up new ways to make people laugh. On TV, unlike a puppet stage, there were no walls, so we could film our puppets from far away. on bring them, or like we could bring them really close for an easy laugh. And while old-fashioned puppets had frozen expressions, our Muppet faces could move. We could do faces that were funny, angry, or even sad. To make our Muppets seem even more real, we crossed their eyes slightly. This gave them focus. Now they started to come alive. Pretty cool. No focus? Focus. But do you want to know my real secret? Practice. We would practice in a mirror over and over until it was just right. The only way people would feel a sense of wonder was if we could give each character a life of its own. Let's do it again, fellas. This is Jerry Jewell, who writes for the Muppets, Don Schillen, who helps build the Muppets, and Frank Oz, who will be the voice and performer of Grover and even Yoda. Who's Yoda? That's really cool. We did commercials and we performed on other shows, but like so much of life, it was all just training for our next adventure. Two TV producers named Joan Gantz and Cooney and John Stone were about to give me the opportunity of a lifetime. We want to create a show that will change the lives of children, especially those whose families don't have a lot of opportunities. We want a show that can help them learn to read and count. It can be funny, right? They even had a name for it. Oh boy, I loved this show. Sesame Street. Since kids love the Muppets, we built Muppets who could interact directly with kids. We began with a big yellow bird who was a child himself. That's me, I'm Big Bird. I loved the Snuffleupagus. Then we added a grouchy green monster named Ah. They know who I am. On November 10th, 1969, the first episode aired. It was a smash hit. Every episode, Sesame Street taught the ABCs. C is for cookie. And 1, 2, 3s. That's four beautiful bats. It was one of the first shows to have kids of different races playing and learning together. It taught kids how to share, how to take turns, how to get along. Certainly, with all of its zany creatures, it made us laugh. I loved Sesame Street. Bert and Ernie, Elmo, Grover, Oscar. But at its best, with songwriters like Joe Raspo, Sesame Street made us think, especially about what kind of people we wanted to be. Green is the color of spring, and green can be cool and friendly, and green can be big like an ocean, or important like a mountain, or tall like 4 trees. Through song, the whole world heard that green and all of us can be anything. Isn't it beautiful to see the world like that? In fact, Kermit's humor never came from making fun of people. It came from bringing us together. By focusing on the good in everyone, our own sense of wonder took over and my dream of entertaining others came true. The Muppets and I went on a new adventure and got to bring along some favorite old friends. It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Mr. Edgar Bergen. Wow, every week on the Muppet Show, frogs, pigs, bears, and creatures of all kinds reminded the world that despite all the chaos, thank you. Oh boy, what a crowd. I don't approve of belly dancers. Why can't they dance on the floor like everyone else? Waka waka. Good grief, the comedian's a bear. Sorry about that, folks. As I was saying, on the Muppet Show and on Sesame Street, I wanted our audiences to know that despite all of the chaos and despite all of our differences, there is nothing more fun than being together. And there, I never stopped creating and dreaming. In fact, The more we performed, the more fun we had, and the more my dream grew, bringing millions of people together. What can possibly be more magical than that? Life is like a movie. Write on your own ending. Keep believing, keep pretending. We've done just what we set out to do. Thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you. See all the people that worked the puppets? In my life, I love to create, but the secret behind my best creation wasn't a strong hand, or a catchy song, or even a funny voice. It was a simple idea. There's good in all of us. Sure, we're all different. Some of us have beards, or no hair, or blue fur, or green flippers, but goodness lives within each of us. That's an idea that should never get old. Believe in the good of the world, create something new, share what you love, and find others who believe in those favorite things you dream about. Together, we can make magic. Wow, look at this museum full of the Muppets. Today, Sesame Street is watched by millions of kids in more than 150 countries worldwide, from Brooklyn to Bangladesh. At its peak, the Muppet Show was watched by over 235 million people per week. Did you know that that even started the Jim Henson Foundation to promote the development of art puppetry? Not to ruin the ending, but is this the ending? I think that's the secret. As long as there are new dreamers, new people who love to entertain and pretend, this is a story that never has to end. Guess what? I want to create cool things too, just like you. Gee, thank you so much. Don't let anything stop you. It starts when we were kids. That's when we learn some of the best things in life. Laughing, sharing, imagining, dreaming, creating. Never stop doing them, and never stop being kind. There's nothing wrong with being a do-gooder. I am Jim Henson, and I will keep believing and keep pretending. There he is, in the middle of all of his Muppets. See? Here's a picture of Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog. I've got a dream too, but it's about singing and dancing and making people happy. That's the kind of dream that gets better the more people share it with you. Okay, I love that. Keep dreaming, keep believing, keep pretending. Jim and Jane and Sam and Friends and Puppets. There's young Jim pretending to be a snake charmer. Frank, Oz, and Jim with Miss Piggy and Kermit. There's the original Sesame Street cast and puppeteers. The end. Book over. Go home. Go home. Bye-bye. I will keep believing and keep pretending.